The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, How to Understand and Improve Your Cybersecurity for 2022, presented by Michael Esposito of SWK Technologies. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar, and we will answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who've registered but were not able to attend. And finally, we would appreciate your participation in our poll question at the end of the presentation. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend this webinar. We're here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business by providing you with tools, support, software, and industry knowledge whenever you need it. So whether you're here researching a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions you have. And lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we'll post more webinars like this. With that said, I'll hand it over to you, Mike.
Thank you so much, Courtney, and also thank you so much to the team at SWK for giving me the opportunity to have this discussion with everybody. Today we are going to talk about how to understand and improve your cybersecurity for 2022. My name is Mike Esposito. I am a technical account manager here at SWK. We're going to have a high-level overview of a few concepts, of which there are many. Feel free to ask any questions, as Courtney mentioned, in the Q&A, the chat, or direct them to info@swk.com. So let's get into it. Before we get started, I wanted to go over the agenda with everybody. We're going to talk about policy, how that impacts your security posture, talk a little bit about MFA and single sign-on and how they protect you from outside threats, go through what next-gen antivirus and threat monitoring mean to your environment. Then we can talk about your human firewall, which would be providing cybersecurity awareness training to your people and your employees. Then we can kind of talk about how the compliance piece plays into this, along with how vulnerability assessments can improve your security posture, along with hardware and disaster recovery solutions that SWK can help you implement. And at the end, we will give you a special offer, and we'll do a poll and Q&A. So let's get started again. A quick overview on SWK Technologies. We are a nationally recognized managed service provider in North America and are able to deliver services across the entire US through our 170+ strong team. With core expertise in cybersecurity, cloud hosting, managed IT, and ERP, our mission is to delight our clients and enable success. And now, before we get into some of the concepts, I want to do a little bit of a precursor. First things first, there is no silver bullet solution to eliminate your risk of a cyber incident. Everything is about reducing that risk. Cyber incidents close businesses, cause service interruptions, and cost businesses untold numbers of dollars. Reducing that risk of that happening means investing in security. And choosing not to implement a given cybersecurity measure means accepting that risk. Businesses often make these choices for several key reasons, but acknowledging that is key. Now let's talk about how policy impacts your overall security posture. Governing how your data is used, transmitted, and accessed is important to determining your overall security posture and risk profile. From CEOs to management to HR, SWK strongly recommends having strict policy regarding how data is accessed and transmitted. And these are just a few key questions you can ask your team and yourself. Do your employees only have access to what they need to? Do they transmit or send personally identifiable information outside of the organization? How are wire transfers or financial transactions governed? Policies around disaster recovery or cyber incidents should be standard for all companies. If your response procedure is call my IT guy, you do not have a proper policy. SWK recommends that all wire transfers should be verified to ensure the recipient is correct. I personally deal with a lot of my clients who are trying to buy cyber insurance, and those insurance companies require our clients to have written disaster recovery and incident response procedures. It plays a major role in the evolving threat landscape, making sure things are documented. Next, I would like to talk about MFA and single sign-on. Ensuring that people who are accessing your data are who they say they are is one of the first implied security policies of many companies. Enabling MFA is an easy way to reduce the risk of an attacker logging into your email and systems remotely. SWK's recommendation is to enable MFA on everything, whether it's in your personal or professional life, whether it's your Facebook or your work email. MFA is a great way to reduce your risk of a cyber attack. This prevents people from logging in from the outside by simply guessing their password. It requires people to put in a second level of authentication, like a code from your phone, a text message, biometric, a voicemail. It's just that second level of authentication that is key. For web-based applications, there may be a way to integrate their login with something called single sign-on, which would allow you to authenticate with one set of login credentials. However, not all vendors offer this integration, but asking doesn't hurt. And also, integrating single sign-on often requires an additional set of licensing, especially if you're using Microsoft Office 365 as your identity provider. Oftentimes, it means requiring an Azure Premium P1 license or a different higher level of license. In my experience and my conversations with my clients, I always press that do not let users being slightly annoyed that they have to put in a code deter you from implementing MFA. It's very simple and very easy to implement, and I've seen it where an attacker's trying to get in and they can't get in because MFA is enabled, and I've also seen it where an attacker has tried to get in and has gotten in and wreaks havoc on an environment. We wanted to make sure that we prevent those issues from happening. And next, we're going to talk about how hardware and disaster recovery solutions play into this as well. Having a backup and disaster recovery device running in your environment will allow you to recover more quickly from a ransomware attack and also other types of cyber events. But not all backup is the same. A disaster recovery solution will allow users to spin up their data in the cloud to be accessed anywhere while the on-site server is being restored or repaired in the event of an incident or disaster. Make sure your systems are running supported operating systems and are patched regularly. This means no more Windows 7, Server 2003 or Server 2008, and old versions of Microsoft Office, because Microsoft does not release security patches for those items any longer and are a security risk in your environment. Also, business-grade firewalls often have security services running on them that keep bad traffic out of your network. Ensures yours is up to date and under warranty, because oftentimes those security services are tied to the warranty itself. And in terms of wireless security, we recommend that our customers utilize a guest network on your Wi-Fi to avoid non-employees from accessing your data. This means in often cases where a Wi-Fi network is set up and users in the company will have access to like shared files, stuff like that, company data, a guest network will prevent those people like coming in to your office as guests or visitors from logging onto your Wi-Fi and being able to access those same items. And next, we're going to talk about next-gen antivirus. Traditional antivirus software does not often hunt for advanced threats, check for file system changes, or allow for systems to be rolled back if infected. SWK will be rolling out next-gen antivirus to our covered workstations and servers by the end of 2021. This is a great change that SWK is implementing. It will have far-reaching, good results for our clients. It's one of the benefits of being enrolled in a plan with SWK is that you get this next-gen antivirus that does all this protection in the background, and we've gone away from traditional antivirus. SWK also recommends that that all your systems are monitored for threats 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by a dedicated security operations center, which is often referred to as a SOC, because not all attacks happen during the day. They happen in the middle of the night. They happen at all hours. Having a dedicated team monitoring, remediating, and looking for threats at all hours is a great tool in addition to just having the next-gen antivirus software. SWK's hosted cloud environment is protected with these tools, and it's backed 24/7 by that same security operations center, along with a host of other security measures. SWK practices what we preach. When we talk about security, we often are rolling, and we are most likely rolling out these same tools internally. Next, we're going to talk about compliance and how that plays in. A lot of our clients come to us with various compliance and insurance forms for us to fill out. Compliance standards are based on your industry, and within that, there are other factors that determine whether you are or are not in compliance with various standards. SWK can ensure you are in compliance with your industry standards like NIST, GDPR, FINRA, and there's a host of other ones out there. Oftentimes, it's not even necessarily the governing bodies of compliance. It's often where a third party that you work with will do an assessment on your company and ask you to fill out forms to make sure that you're in compliance with their IT standards. So, because businesses often don't want to work with companies that aren't on the same level of security. So making sure that you're up to par on these things is part of compliance, but also is part of something called third-party vendor assessments as well. And SWK can absolutely help get you within compliance and work with you and do assessments on that front. Next, let's talk about vulnerability and penetration testing. Performing regular internal and external vulnerability assessments can identify your weaknesses. SWK can perform these assessments and provide recommendations on how to further secure your environment. A vulnerability assessment is different from a penetration test. Penetration tests not only identifies vulnerabilities, but actively tries to exploit them, and they try to get in as a test to kind of really, to really do a thorough test of that. And a lot of insurance companies, I know that I've been keep harping on it, a lot of insurance companies require you as businesses to do regular vulnerability assessments because the threat landscape is changing. Something that it was identified as a vulnerability in late 2020 may not be identified, or may be identified as a vulnerability in late 2021, or even 3 to 4 months later. As these things change, so does SWK. Next, we're going to talk about cyber awareness training. No anti-spam solution can completely eliminate spam or fraudulent emails. Having your employees regularly tested and trained on the latest cybersecurity threats help increase your strength of your human firewall. There is a place for the human in this that plays a role. These services also regularly send simulated phishing attempts and score users based on if they do or do not click on them, along with tracking who is participating in the training itself and enrolling those in remedial training or other forms of training when somebody clicks on them. Having trained employees reduces the risk of an attack. I literally just got one of the emails this morning, and we here at SWK are constantly trained. We're constantly being sent these types of phishing emails that are tests. Some people do click on them. I'm not ashamed to admit that I've clicked on 1 or 2 of them and had to be enrolled in training. They're that good. These training programs, they get really close to what exactly what a spam email and attack looks like. Next, we're going to talk about how to manage your risk and kind of go over some other concepts. SWK recommends a multi-level strategy. Unless you go off the grid, the best defense is a layered defense. SWK offers a compliance as a service that includes vulnerability assessments, internal and external, meaning your internal network and your external network. Also compliance audits for NIST and industry and regulatory to keep people compliant with HIPAA, PCI, et cetera, using our VCIO team and our VCIO service. As we discussed, with security awareness training, we want to increase the strength of that human firewall, making sure everyone's trained. Preventing attackers from getting in from the outside using MFA is incredibly important. Robots who run automatic programming will just try to get into an account over and over again. It's not like there's a person often cases. It's just a program running guessing passwords. So having MFA enabled reduces the risk of somebody getting into your account from the outside. What we didn't discuss before was encryption. We recommend that SWK recommends that if you are sending personally identifiable information out to clients or outside of the organization, whether that's social security numbers, phone numbers, account numbers, that those messages be encrypted. And as well as an anti-theft measure, SWK recommends that all mobile devices, laptops, even desktops in the environment have their data encrypted on them as well. So in the event of a theft, the thief will not be able to actually get into the data on the laptop because everything will be encrypted, and it will require them to put in like a 64 or 128 digit code that literally can't be cracked. SWK is leveraging the latest threat protection and response tools in response to attack 24/7. This is where next gen AV comes into play. And in the event that you do get attacked, having a suitable backup and recovery solution will decrease the amount of time in business operation. There's an abbreviation called RTO. It's return to operations. So how fast can a company return to operation in the event of an attack? Oftentimes when we talk to clients, we mention RTO as a baseline. How long can you afford to be down? What is your return? What is your ideal return to operation in the event of attack? That's where backup and disaster recovery solutions come into play, along with other things, making sure you get back to your operations as soon as you can after one of these incidents. And next, I'm going to have some closing remarks. There are a lot more security measures, concepts, and methods to increase your company's cybersecurity posture, like just the following to name a few. Zero trust, mobile device encryption, we kind of touched that in the last slide. Disaster recovery planning, conditional access in modern authentication, and cyber insurance policies. Security should be taken seriously by everyone, and the companies that do not take it seriously are the ones whose businesses are having negative outcomes, being closed, they're paying out in ransomware. I spend a lot of my time talking with my clients about security. To me, it's really the only conversation that matters. And for those of you who are my clients and are listening, you've probably heard me talk at length about these things before. I apologize for going over them again. Same thing for the internal people at SWK. I'm kind of a broken record about talking about security, and that's okay because these are important. These are important concepts. We are seeing billions paid out in ransomware, businesses closing shop, people putting gas in bags in meatpacking plants stop production. SWK does not want to see our clients have similar outcomes. The threat landscape is ever changing, and so is SWK. We are constantly reviewing different services and adapting to our clients' needs. As much as these things are business decisions and we're talking about reducing our risk, like SWK really care, from a human level about this. We want to show a lot of compassion and sympathy and empathy towards our clients. And, they're we want to do a good job in these things. We care for our clients. We have deep conversations about security and workflow that have far-reaching consequences past security. It's let's talk about how your business works. Let's come up with a plan that works for you, because not every company is going to need 24/7 threat monitoring. Obviously, we'd like that to happen, but not every company is going to require certain things. So we work with our clients to come up with custom plans together on these items. So it's not a one size fits all. It's what works for your business, what works for your budget. You know, these are big things. It's not all or nothing. And the next thing we're going to talk about is just a brief overview of SWK's managed cloud services. Just a reminder, SWK is able to provide a helping hand if needed. We have an IT consulting and services division that can help you with any problems or requests to improve performance and security, and provide any of the services you see here. And you know, we offer the security operations centers, compliance as a service, security solutions, like we discussed. You know, we have a managed services division that offers managed on-premise cloud or hybrid servers. We have a 100% onshore help desk. We do infrastructure as a service, where client servers are hosted in our cloud, and do other sorts of cloud hosting and migrations and software consulting. We do offer business continuity and disaster recovery solutions, and consulting and do assessments. The next slide is our special webinar offer. By viewing this webinar, you are eligible to get a free month of cybersecurity service offering. That's a really exciting proposition. I'm looking forward to seeing people respond and take advantage of this. And now I'm going to hand it over to the Q&A.
Thank you, Mike. So we are now going to do a quick polling question. So if you wouldn't mind responding, we're asking, would you like to be contacted for more information? This could be about managed cloud services, cybersecurity solutions, or about that free month of cybersecurity that Mike just mentioned. And also, in the meantime, if you have any questions, go ahead and answer those in the questions section of your GoToWebinar, and we'll have a quick Q&A. And we're going to close out the poll. And so, Mike, I think we've had a couple questions come through. So our first question is, what makes a next-gen antivirus different? Mike, you still there?
Oops, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Courtney. A traditional antivirus works off something called definitions, where they're reacting to threats that are known threats in the threat landscape. Next-gen antivirus includes and incorporates artificial intelligence. And I know artificial intelligence is kind of a scary word, but it does machine learning and learns how to kind of see threats kind of coming, but also react to things in the environment. So like next-gen antivirus looks for file changes, whereas traditional antivirus kind of doesn't. Like next-gen antivirus also allows for system rollback. So if an infection is present, we can roll back the system before the infection spreads too far.
Awesome, thank you. And our second question is, what do you recommend for the bare minimum of cybersecurity?
The bare minimum, well, I'm hoping that one, next-gen antivirus, I think it's kind of an easy, cost-effective solution to kind of roll out. The second one, to me, is multi-factor authentication. I know we harp on it a lot. Multi-factor authentication really does reduce your risk of an attack by like a lot. Because it takes the outside element kind of and reduces that risk. So people trying to log into your email, if you have MFA enabled, they can't really get in without either having your phone or having that second level of authentication. It kind of prevents those types of attacks. But MFA and next-gen antivirus are the two prominent ones, in my opinion.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think that concludes all of our questions. So thanks everyone for your question. And again, thank you so much, Mike, for a great presentation and for taking the time to be with us today. And we'd also like to thank everyone in the audience for attending our webinar, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great holiday.